Check, check, mic, check, check. All right. Hopefully that is working. We will see how that goes. All right, let me tweet out a new link since apparently that did not work. Yo, Red Hood, what is up? Can you hear me? Is my mic fixed now? I am gonna yes, thank you. Sorry about that. I don't know what keeps going on, man. Okay, all right. I apologize for that, everybody. Good, awesome, happy to see that. Anyways, so now that you can hear me, sorry I wasted your time on that last one. Man, I just keep having issues with this mic starting up. So anyways, back on topic. This chat is going to be mostly focused today around the August NPD preview. But I'm also at the end of the chat, I want to take, your thoughts on what you think we're going to see in the Nintendo Direct tomorrow. I think it's going to be a really big one. But for the first chunk of this video, it's mostly going to be me previewing and taking your questions on what I'm expecting to see for August NPD sales. So first, let's kick that off with hardware. For hardware, I'm expecting Switch to obviously be the best-selling platform for the month, but I am also expecting it to be relatively flat year over year. I'm not seeing a lot of evidence in the data that I've seen that it's going to take a big boost up in sales, or also that it's going to dive down a lot. From what I've seen, it's going to probably be relatively flat, maybe up or down by a few percent, but don't expect any like 20, 30% growth or declines, at least from what I've seen. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that the new Switch might have had a big effect on sales, like a big boost. I'm not seeing a lot of evidence of that. From what I've seen, it mostly is just replacing purchases that were already going to happen. There's been, a few people coming in and upgrading and doing that kind of thing. But for the most part, this doesn't look like a revision that's like having a huge hardware impact. So don't expect huge growth year over year unless something's going on that I'm not seeing in my data. But I don't think so. I think Switch is going to be relatively flat. The Switch Lite, obviously, whenever that gets here, that will be the big boost. When the Switch Lite hits, that's when you'll see a lot of momentum coming up because you're getting a cheaper price tag. And also, it's a lot different of a revision than the current Switch that just came out. In terms of PS4, it should be second place console, obviously, and expected decline year over year. It did much better than I expected last month. The PS4 did really good. But that was mostly due to price cut, right? We hadn't seen a PS4 price drop in a very long time for the regular base PS4. Because if you remember during the days of Play Sale, it was the Pro that was discounted, but the Slim was still, at the same price it always is. So last month it experienced, that price drop for a select time, and it did really well. So, but this month, you're not going to have that effect. And from what I've seen, it is going to decline similarly to what we've been seeing most months this year. So expect PS4 down somewhere in that, 20, 30% range, I think. I don't think it's going to go up into like the 40s. Could happen, but I don't think so. More like probably 20 to 30% down for the PS4. And then coming in, at the lowest selling console is going to be the Xbox One, and it looks rough. I'm just going to be honest. Looks rough this month for Xbox. I would not expect very high sales. I think it comes in under 100,000. Don't think it breaks 100,000 sold for this month. I think it'll be under that number. So pretty tough and pretty difficult month for Xbox. So that's pretty much going to sum up my hardware thoughts. Did anyone have any questions on that, on hardware sales? If not, I'll move on to software. But if you have anything with hardware that you want to ask, I can definitely answer it. I'll start previewing software then while you drop your questions if you have any, or if you have any software questions, now's the time to drop them. For software, best-selling game of the month should be Madden, and it should be pretty easily by a very large margin. So expect Madden 20 to top the charts 2 months in a row. If you remember, it did have a few days of tracking last month, and just those couple days were enough to put it at number 1 for the month. This month, obviously August, it had a full month of tracking. It will be very easily your best-selling game of the month. So even though it's technically not a new release for this month, technically came out at the very, very end of last month's tracking, it will have 2 months at the top of the chart. Should be not even close. In regards to the new releases, Control and Astral Chain both seem to be doing pretty well for the types of games they are. So, keep in mind that Astral Chain is a platinum title. Platinum games typically are not huge sellers. In general, Nier Automata being like the real, what's the word I'm looking for? Unique one of that group. Metal Gear Rising did well as well, but in general, platinum games are not huge sellers. You look at games like Bayonetta, Wonderful 101, titles like that, for example, and they're considered pretty niche, right? Good games, huge fan base in terms of like the people that love them, but not huge sellers. Astral Chain seems to be following a similar path, but maybe a little bit better. Definitely better than something like Wonderful 101. It's doing much better than that. So no need to worry about anything like that. But it also isn't looking like it's necessarily, overperforming like Nier did. But I think it's going to do better than Bayonetta. So somewhere, between Bayonetta and Nier is kind of what I'm expecting for Astral Chain. I think it's definitely going to be a million seller, not this month, but lifetime. I think Astral Chain will definitely do 1 million, probably going to do 1.5 even maybe. And who knows, it could go higher than that. I really need to see what Japan looks like and what the actual NPD US release looks like before I'm sitting here telling you it's going to sell over 2 million. I have no idea on that, but it'll definitely do over 1 million. It's doing well for the type of title it is. In regards to Control, also doing well for that mid-range budget game, right? It's not a AAA game in terms of budget. We know this cost under 30 million to make. The budget's somewhere between 20 and 30. We don't have the exact number, but it costs Remedy somewhere in that range to make it. So it's not like this huge, 80, 90, $100 million game. Under 30, pretty cheap by like an Xbox One, PS4, PC standards. That's not like an indie title. It's right in that mid-range. So it doesn't need to sell like a ton of units. The break-even point somewhere around 1 million to 1.5 million for Control. Doesn't need to go out and sell 10 million copies to be a break-even. So for the type of game it is, doing pretty well. Don't expect Astral Chain or Control, though, to be very high on the chart in NPD. Both of them are going to be slotted in, I think low top 10, could go even top 15 for one or two of them. But I think they'll be top 10, but I think they're going to be low, right? So games like Super Mario Maker 2 are going to be in front of it. Madden's going to be in front of it. Super Smash Brothers will probably be in front of it. Fire Emblem's looking to have a pretty solid month. So I think Fire Emblem will be ahead of those games. Because remember, Astral Chain only has 2 days of tracking and Control only has 5. So we're talking very short tracking periods for these games, and they're not like huge sellers. So sometimes when you see a game like Madden that's a gigantic seller, if it has 2 days of tracking, that's all it really needs to top the chart, because Madden's enormous. But for these games, like Control and Astral Chain that are on a little bit more of a mid-tier to smaller end, 2 to 5 days is not enough tracking to really get them high up on the list, right? Maybe if they would have had a full month, the story would be different. But with this very short tracking time, don't think that these are bombs. I'm a little bit worried that some people, when they see the chart, are going to be like, oh, Astral Chain failed, Control failed. What are they doing, not in the top 5? Remember, these are smaller games, and these are also very short tracking. So you've got some questions dropping. I'm going to start answering some of those. Okay. Red Hood, why do you think Xbox sales are going down? Good question. Last year was a pretty good year in the US for the Xbox One. It was actually like a very good year overall. It was up year over year, and I think almost every single month. I'd have to go back and double check exactly which months it might have missed growth. But in general, last year was a great year for the Xbox for a console that's not the market leader. I mean, keep in mind, it wasn't selling like, what the PS4 or the Switch is doing, but the Xbox also isn't the market leader. So for a console in the position it is, in the US at least, I know worldwide it's different, but in the US, Xbox had a pretty good year. The X helped a lot and things like that. So in general, it's a little bit tougher comps, to go against, considering Xbox had such a good year last year. There's no Fortnite effect this year. That's affecting both the Xbox and the PS4. That's something that me and Matt Piscatella from NPD were talking about a lot last year during the front part of the year. Fortnite was selling a lot of consoles. A lot of people don't realize that or kind of maybe brush off that effect, but it was moving a lot. And Fortnite's kind of peaked. I'm not sitting here telling you that it's the game's dead now, it's going to go down. I'm not saying anything like that, but in terms of its like hardware moving impact, like people going out and buying consoles to play Fortnite, that effect just isn't really there this year. So it's also another reason you're seeing PS4 down. Keep in mind, PS4 has been down pretty hard some months this year. It's just that the PS4 is selling so much better in general that its drops look better because it's selling more units, and Xbox is doing worse. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to sit here and tell you, Xbox is fine. The units are not good. But what I mean is the optics of it, Xbox being down, put it this way, whenever you're selling a low amount of units anyways, and then you're down 30 or 40% from that, it looks real bad compared to if you're selling a good amount of units and you're down 30 to 40%. Still rough, but your total units is still much higher. So there's all of that. I think, we're late in the gen. How many people are really going out and just buying brand new systems to play brand new release games for Xbox and PS4? Not a lot. Most of the people that are buying consoles now are late gen buyers. They're buying them for their second console to play exclusive games. They're buying them because, they're cheap now, things like that. There's a lot of factors. The X isn't boosting it the same way it was last year. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's a rough year. Make no mistake, for Xbox especially, PS4 as well, but Xbox especially, rough year. All right, next question. Let's see. Isma0612, how are the legs looking for Fire Emblem? Good. They're looking good. Remember, games like this typically are pretty front-loaded, kind of classifies as a JRPG. I know it's different. It's more of a tactics-based, grid-based game, but it falls into that similar kind of range that a JRPG does in terms of like sales and drops. But it's looking good. I do expect that you will see Fire Emblem in your top 10. I definitely think you'll see that. I'll be surprised if it's not. So it's looking good for Fire Emblem legs. I do expect it somewhere in that top 10. Where it'll fall, if it's top 5 or not, I'm not 100% sure, but top 10 should place there. That would be one of the bigger surprises to me of the month if it's not. If Fire Emblem's out of your top 10, that will catch me off guard. I'm pretty good at predicting these things, but make no mistake, I am not perfect. That one would shock me though. If Fire Emblem's out of your top 10 from everything I've seen, big surprise. Pierre here. Will Astral Chain be in the top 10? Pierre, I think so. I kind of touched on this just a minute ago. I think so, but I think low. Could be top 15, but it will chart. I think it's going to chart top 10, but low on that top 10. Maybe could be top 15. Somewhere in that range is what I would expect. But yeah, it's going to chart for sure. Alex, standout exception. Astral Chain going to be number 1 from Ardmore. Nope, it is not. I'm sorry, Ardmore. I hate to break this to you, but Astral Chain is not going to be number 1. Not at all. It is going to be Madden by a very large margin. Alex Bailey and no digital. Exactly. It's another thing. Good point, Alex. Astral Chain and Control. Last I checked, 505 does not provide digital to NPD. Could have changed. I could have missed something, but last I saw, no digital for either Astral Chain or Control. So that means Control is going to be missing basically all of its PC sales. So for a multi-platform game like that, PC is not a small chunk. So that's another reason. Exactly. Good point out, Alex Bailey. That's another reason to go in with, reserved expectations on Astral Chain and Control. Don't expect these to chart super high. They're both missing digital, and Control is missing all of its PC sales unless something has changed there. Ruger, if Astral Chain sells 1.5 million lifetime, wouldn't that make it really successful considering first-party Nintendo games barely get discounted. Yeah. Oh, for sure, Ruger. 1.5 would be great. If Astral Chain hits 1.5 million sold, I think that would be a definite success. I think anything over $1 million for a platinum game in general would be a success. So as long as this does $1 million, which I think it will, I'd be shocked if it doesn't do $1 million lifetime. Yeah, 1.5 would definitely be a success. So yeah, like I said, some people think that I sent out a tweet. I think it was yesterday, whenever the UK numbers dropped, and I just said I was kind of surprised at some of the reactions to Astral Chain being first in the UK. I saw a lot of people like kind of freaking out, like, "Oh man, this is amazing!" And don't get me wrong, it is awesome to see a platinum game at #1. It's the first one to do it, but I made the comment it wasn't super high units, and I think some people took that the wrong way. I think some people took it as in I was saying the game's not doing well. It's not what I'm saying. I was just saying this isn't like a huge launch. Like it's still, you know, fairly small in terms of units. It's just we're in those summer weeks, and you know, it doesn't take a lot to top the charts in the summer. But yeah, no, it's doing well. I'm not trying to say Astral Chain is doing bad. I was just kind of trying to explain that just because it's #1 doesn't mean. I'm trying to keep people's expectations in check so they don't go in and go crazy if Astral Chain is not, you know, top 5 for NPD. I'm trying to keep those expectations in check. Nier sold a lot, but had benefit being sold for around 20 a few months after release. Yeah, no doubt. Nintendo games don't discount quickly, so that's a good point. Red Hood, do you think Gears 5 will outsell 4 in terms of physical sales? Great question. Physical's tough. Digital, yes. Gears 5, I'm fully expecting to outsell 4, even though Gears 5 is going to be available on Game Pass. I still think it's going to outsell it. We haven't seen Game Pass really cannibalize sales in general. I'm sure it's having some of that effect, but games like Forza Horizon 4, for example, was the fastest selling Forza game ever. And it was on Game Pass day 1. So there is definitely, I'm sure, some cannibalizing of sales there, but also being on Game Pass has an effect of being free marketing. Basically, all those people that are playing it through Game Pass that are talking about how awesome it is, and you know, they're really enjoying the game, as long as it's good. Keep in mind the game has to be good, but it's also basically free marketing. You're getting that game into just more people's hands that are going to go out and talk about it, which is going to lead to sales. Also, the game's available on Steam, which is very big. I just looked at the Steam top selling games just a little bit ago, and it was on the top 10, I believe. I'd have to go back and check, but I think Gears 5 is already in your top 10 best-selling games on Steam right now, and the reviews have not hit. So if reviews are really good, you know, that those Steam sales could be pretty big. So I do expect digitally, no doubt, Gears 5 to sell more than Gears 4 when all is said and done. But physical's tough because we're getting, I mean, it very well could, but we're getting just later in the generation, and digital percentages are growing and growing and growing. So you got to keep that in mind. Every year, digital's higher. So it makes it harder to match physical sales of games even a year ago or the year before that or 3 years ago. It makes it much tougher. But with digital, definitely think Gears 5 is going to be bigger than Gears 4. Exile End, hey guys, what's up, Exile? How long we've been here? 18? I'll probably go for about 30 minutes today. So we'll do this chat for about another 10. Armored Door, 1.5 million will be a very good number. Nintendo games tend to sell good lifetime. Yep, definitely. Given the release slate, why is Switch's growth slowing down? Good question. Good question. Let's talk about this. I thought that it was due to the revision, but you said the updated model didn't have a significant impact. Okay, very good question, Isma. One thing is that last year the Switch did pretty well over the summer in general anyways, so it's harder to beat those comps. You always have to look at what the comp is when you're looking at year-over-year growth. Switch is still doing really good this summer. It's just the growth isn't as big because last summer Switch sold pretty well. Granted, the release slate has been much better this summer. You're spot on there. Games like Marvel and Fire Emblem and things like that have been very good. Super Mario Maker 2. But a big part of it really is that last summer was pretty good. So it was easier for the Switch to show growth in that front part of the year last year because Switch sales were good last year during January, February, March, April. You know, they were good, but they weren't like fantastic. So it was easier to show growth there. And also the games that have been coming out minus Super Mario Maker 2 haven't exactly been huge console sellers. Fire Emblem's a great game. Marvel was really good. I enjoyed that as well. But again, even though Fire Emblem was the best-selling Fire Emblem ever at launch, still isn't like an enormous game. Very big, don't get me wrong, very big. Not as big though as Super Mario Maker 2. Doesn't exactly hit like those really broad casual demos, right? The Fire Emblem's really selling to those core. So they haven't exactly been those Zeldas, those Marios, those kind of games like that really push Nintendo hardware. So that's kind of one of the reasons these games are really good, but they're more targeted towards the core fan base. Astral Chain, again, that's not the kind of game that's going to sell consoles. And Switch Lite probably does have an effect. I don't think the better battery Switch hurt sales really at all, but Lite, I could see a lot of people waiting for the Lite that want that handheld only option and don't want to spend, they want to spend $100. I think the Lite could be impacting hardware sales. Exile End. I honestly think a lot of people are waiting next gen now, and everyone has consoles. Probably referring to the Xbox. Yeah, we're close to next gen, so definitely, hardware is going to slow down. Red Hood. Have you seen the pre-order data for Catherine Full Body? I actually haven't really looked into that. Catherine's kind of like that's a really small re-release. I haven't really looked at any data on that. I'll be honest with you. I don't always keep track of every single game. I try to keep track of the ones that are going to be super relevant and big sellers. So I can't comment on Catherine Full Body. Don't want to mislead you one way or the other. I just haven't really looked at any of that data. Patrick, what's up, everyone? What's up? Armador, Gears of War 5 won't sell more physical units than Gears 4. Much smaller audience, almost 50% smaller in USA. No chance. 50% smaller in USA. Gears 4 was on Xbox One. So it's like, unless you're saying like digital's grown so much, maybe that's what you're saying. Like it's hard to match Gears 4 physical because digital's so much better. I think that might be where you're going with that. And yeah, it's definitely harder. No doubt about it. Kyle Tonello, do you think Final Fantasy Remake can do better than 15 sales-wise? Yes, I do think so. Maybe that sounds crazy. I do. I do think so. Final Fantasy 7 hype remake is insane. It's only on one platform as of now. Final Fantasy 15 was multi-platform, but the hype for 7 is something else. Something else. And the early tracking for it is nuts. So, yes, I think 7 Remake can. Will it? Not 100% sure. Definitely will need to look at a lot more data close to launch before I can make that prediction. But I do think it's possible. Definitely think 7 can outsell 15. Thoughts on Overwatch on Switch? Seems to be happening. I commented on this before. I heard this rumor for the first time last year. I think a lot of people did. You're seeing other people on Twitter say that they heard this a really long time ago and stuff too. I think it was probably a pretty common rumor in the rumor mill. I don't think it's like a shocking one. But I did hear this rumor over a year ago that Blizzard was porting it and that they were having issues with it. Don't know exactly what those issues were. I don't know if it was like online or, actually getting the game to run. That I don't know. I didn't hear any specifics. I just heard that they were having issues. And then I didn't hear anything for a really long time. So I thought maybe that rumor was dead, as in it wasn't real. Or I thought maybe that Blizzard just never worked the issues out because you didn't hear anything for a long time about it. But now with that case popping up and other rumors, it does seem like that rumor panned out actually to be true. Maybe we'll find out, I think, tomorrow if that's hitting or not. But in terms of sales, I think it could do really, really well. I think a lot of the Splatoon audience will like that game. Obviously very different, but similar in some ways as well. On the go, having Overwatch on the go would be awesome. Diablo did fantastic on the Switch, really, really strong. So it makes sense why Blizzard wants to get Overwatch on it. And there's not a ton of competition for a game like Overwatch on the Switch. You know what I mean? There's not like a ton of big competitive shooters on the Switch. There's a few. There is like Splatoon and stuff, but it's not like it is on Xbox and PC and PS4 where there's just tons of these competitive shooters. It's constantly, battling for attention against, Battlefield and Call of Duty. And, there's a new game seemingly every month. There's a big shooter every other month. Whereas there's a lot less competition on the Switch, right? You're really dealing with like Splatoon and Fortnite and that kind of thing. So I think it's wide open. I think it'd be really successful. Hope that rumor ends up being true. I think it would be good for the Switch. And I also think it'd be good for Blizzard. Think everyone works out well in that deal. So we'll find out tomorrow. If it's happening, I think you'll hear it tomorrow. If you don't get any announcement tomorrow about Overwatch, I think the rumors were just that, just rumors. And I wouldn't expect it to be coming if you don't hear about it tomorrow. Because like I said, when I heard that rumor, it was over a year ago. So the fact it's popping up right now could just be, I've seen this before. I won't go super into details, but I had heard that Scalebound rumor. Remember when Scalebound came back into the news cycle for a couple days? I had heard that rumor again a year before it came back. Sometimes in these rumor mills, a rumor spreads, it disappears, and then it pops back up somewhere and someone reports on it. And doesn't mean it's real. So I had heard that Scalebound rumor a long time ago. So, and that ended up being fake. Even when it popped back up, it was still fake. So Overwatch could be a similar thing. Could be just a rumor making the rumor mills, or we'll find out tomorrow. Okay. Patrick, tough question, and I don't expect you to know since it's DLC. Ooh, but what about Destiny's Shadowkeep? It was 5th on Steam yesterday. Yeah, I think it's going to do really well. The pre-hype seems very high among Destiny users. Destiny's still a huge game. A lot of people forget that, but Destiny's still massive. Like Destiny 2 still has a huge player base. And I think also they've earned a lot of goodwill separating from Activision, not trying to throw Activision under the bus, but I think a lot of people felt, oh man, my lip's bleeding. Sorry. My lips are super chapped. Sorry, folks. That's gross. Sorry about that. But anyways, yeah, I think they earned a lot of goodwill separating from Activision, people knowing that they're in charge of their own IP now, that they completely own it and run it. So, yeah, I think Shadowkeep's going to do really well. Alex Bailey, Gears 4 had lots of hype, I thought, due to the return form for Gears marketing. What do you think of the marketing campaign for Gears 5? I've touched on this. I think Gears 5 is pretty weak overall. I haven't been a huge fan of how they've been marketing this game in general, but in the end, it seems like it's not really going to matter because the game seems like it's really good, at least from the previews. Reviews drop tomorrow for it, but the previews were overwhelmingly positive. So I don't think the marketing's been great. I'll be honest. I think they've not done a great job on that. But if the game's amazing, right? If it's really big, War is a big enough name that you can kind of get by with not great marketing if the game's good. So not great marketing, but we'll see. Rug, since they're both PS4 exclusives, what do you think will sell more, Final Fantasy VII or Death Stranding? Final Fantasy VII for sure. It's tracking better than Death Stranding. Death Stranding is tracking really good, though. Don't get me wrong. Death Stranding is going to do really well, especially if it's good. That's one that's who freaking knows. If you know if Death Stranding is going to be good, then you are psychic, because I think it's going to be awesome. But that game is so out there, who knows what it's going to be like. But tracking is very good for it. But I think Final Fantasy VII will be the bigger of the two for sure. Patrick, what do you expect from Fallen Order sales-wise? What game could be really good? The previews and hands-on were very positive. Yeah, it should be huge. Star Wars games in general are big. A lot of people, are kind of feeling a little weird about Star Wars lately. It seems like, at least, that there's a lot of, animosity there between people that are really for Star Wars and really against the direction Star Wars has been going. It's been a bit tough for fans, but I mean, Battlefront 1 was massive, and Battlefront 2, even though it missed expectations in sales, it was still a huge seller. Like, it still sold a lot of units. It didn't match what EA wanted out of it, and it didn't sell as well as Battlefront 1, but it was still huge. Like, Star Wars is still a massive brand name. So Fallen Order is good. It has the brand name. It has the marketing. I think they've advertised it pretty well. I know some people didn't love they showed, but I think that they've done a good job of showing the game. I think it's going to be huge. I expect that game to do very well. Ardemore, what is your prediction for the year-end 2019 Switch worldwide shipment? I'll get back to you on that one. I need to do a connection's unstable. Did my thing drop for you? Can everyone see this, or is my connection gone? I got an alert that my connection's unstable. I'm going to wrap the chat up anyways here in just a minute. If anyone can hear or see this, can you let me know? I'm getting an alert that my connection's unstable. Anyways, okay, we see you. Thanks, Dark Detective. All right. All right, thanks everyone, but low res. Okay, I'm gonna wrap the chat up here in just a minute anyways. I'm just gonna answer these last few questions and then I'm gonna end the chat, all right? Armador, what is your prediction for the year end? Yeah, I'll get back to you on that, Armador, maybe in the next chat. I'm gonna have to look at a few things and break that down. Alvin, can you talk about the new Intellivision? Unfortunately, I cannot, Alvin. Armador, I wonder if Nintendo puts another Mario Kart sequel on Switch, bearing in mind that Mario Kart has 8 port from Wii U is selling crazy good, around 18 million copies. Yeah. So I think you'll definitely get another Mario Kart on the Switch for sure, I would think. You'll definitely get one. I don't think it's like a high priority just because of how well the Mario Kart 8 port is selling. So I don't think it's something that they feel like they need to rush out the door because, like I said, the Mario Kart port is just selling unbelievable units. So I'm sure they'd love to have another Mario Kart, right? That's another 20 plus million seller right there. 20, 30, who knows? But I just don't think it's like a high priority since Mario Kart's selling so well and at full price. So it's not something that's like, hey, we need to get a Mario Kart done. We need a Mario Kart next year. I think it's one of those things. I think you will see one on the Switch, but they're taking their time with it. A few more questions popped up. I'll see if I can answer them really quick. Do we going to see Grand Theft Auto 5 on Switch? I think it won't happen during the September or announcement in 2019. It won't happen. I heard a rumor that that was at one point being looked at and that those plans were scrapped. So I don't know. I think that they were trying to make Grand Theft Auto 5 on Switch happen, but it's not anymore. Can't say that for sure, but that's what I heard. So I don't think you'll see it. Dark Detective, wouldn't their time be better spent on another game and save Mario Kart 9 for the Switch successor? Good question, Dark. I mean, they could, but they could also drop it on Switch. I think you'll see one. It would be weird to go the Switch's whole generation without a brand new Mario Kart. I feel like that would be strange. But, I mean, they could save it. I just think they're not in a rush. That's my thing. I'm sure they've got other projects that are a higher priority, put it that way, than Mario Kart. Patrick, it's September. Do you think we're really going to see The Last of Us Part 2? Patrick, I do. Let me grab a drink. Patrick, I do think you are going to see The Last of Us. I really do. That's why I put that tweet out there. I think this is the month that we finally see The Last of Us Part 2. I really do. Can't tell you that for 100% insider knowledge, but I think it's time. I mean, that game is rumored to be hitting soon. Rumors February or early 2019. You need to get the date out there, and you need to get pre-orders going. You cannot pre-order that game yet on the PS4, I believe, for example. Like, you cannot get on your PS4 and pre-order The Last of Us Part 2. As far as I'm aware, could be wrong on that, but I don't think it's up. You want to start driving that hype cycle if that early 2019 game, or I mean 2020 game, sorry. You need to get that train rolling, and we're getting close. If they save it for Outbreak Day, that's the end of September. You're only like 5 or 6 months out from launch if that game is going to be February 2020. So I think so, Patrick. I think you're going to see it this month. I think it's going to be its own standalone event. I don't think there's going to be a state of play, but I do think that, yes, you're going to see The Last of Us Part 2 this month. All right. We're going to wrap it up here, everyone. Armador, thanks for all the answers. You're welcome. Pokeland, show me Joel, show me them clickers, and give me that release date. I agree. Hopefully we get all of it. Release date, pre-order starting, whole shebang. Armador, PS5 hit 100 million units. Yes, it's going to crush that. It's going to do 125 plus million units total lifetime. All right, everyone. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for dealing with the technical difficulties with me. Thanks, everyone. It's been awesome. I love doing these live chats. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you don't already. We'll do another one of these maybe tomorrow. I might do one of these tomorrow depending on how the direct is, just to get everyone's feedback. I cannot promise that. If I'm not making any promises, but we might do another live chat tomorrow if the direct is like really good. So thanks, everyone, and I will see you next time. Peace.